Welcome back, guys. In this episode I want to summarize to you the story of the Ivangese quest line. So basically the Zodiac Brave Story, as it's called within the game and as it's known for most people. Before we do go into it though, I want to mention something about the dates that I'm gonna be using. So some of them won't be entirely accurate. However, the reason I'm gonna be using them is because I myself prefer to use some kind of a date to, indicate a timeline rather than saying like, oh, this happened many time ago, or stupid stuff like that. So instead I'm just gonna be saying something like, oh, this happened this time around ago. So the way you're gonna be able to see if I'm just estimating it is I'm gonna be using the word around before the year. There are some dates confirmed, like precisely, but there are also some things that we have to just kind of assume. Of course, before the game starts, there are some dates or like some events that happen an unknown amount of time before the game starts. So for that, yeah, we still have to use the some time ago thing to describe it. But yeah, this is something I wanted to get out of the way. And obviously this won't be a detailed, it's just gonna be like the rough course of events. So I won't be mentioning like character details or like super specific things about locations and all that. So anyway, let's just get into it. Our events begin during or before the third astral era, about 5,000 to 6,000 or more years ago, where Saint Ajora, a warrior of light chosen by Hydaelyn, summons Ultima to destroy the holy Eudoran Empire. Ultima is just an empty soul from another dimension, but gains conscience due to mankind's fear of her, and people start worshipping her, making her essentially a primal later down the line. He then destroys the city of Muonde in one fell swoop with the help of Ultima, but Saint Ajora also dies in the process. The rest of the original Zodiac Braves sealed off the Necrohall of Muonde into another plane, which renders Ultima non-harmful to Hydaelyn for the time being. Oh, and Saint Ajora was also he was like the first Zodiac Brave in this tale. The next timeline is gonna be during around the 5th Astral Era, more than 1600 years ago, during the age of the Evangelisian civilization. Ultima breaks free. She also creates aurasites which can influence someone with strong desires, turning them into primal-like creatures. Ramza Beowulf becomes warrior of light chosen by Hydaelyn, and he embarks on a journey and starts gathering companions on his way. Ramza Beowulf and companions engage Construct 8 in Gog. During that fight, there is a errant discharge from Construct 8's weapons that rent the city asunder, which affects the eathery flow around the place, which force the inhabitants to leave. And geographically, it then makes sense that they went north to Ilsabard, which would make them the settlers for what would become Garlemald much later. Delita slays Argat Tadalphus in Lesalia, the capital of Ivangese. After Delita killed him, Argat's family heirloom, the Duma Aurasite, activates and transforms him into an undead Lucavi, seeking to exact revenge on Delita. Ramza, however, slew Argath. Ramza and his companions face Ultima, however, are only able to seal her in Necrohol Muonde. Ramza and his comrades die, but Ultima is sealed once again. Orandurai writes down in High Ivangese all the deeds done by Ramza Beowulf and his companions in what would become the Durai Papers. However, to Ramza's own wish, Oran decides to hide the Durai Papers so that people wouldn't learn the truth and know about the Holy Stones, aka the Aurasite. This is done to prevent the Holy Stones from falling into the wrong hands. Orandurai and his wife Alma Biolv have a child combining the two bloodlines. However, Oran doesn't live long enough to see their child, as he was burned at the stake by the church for helping Ramza, who was branded a heretic. Around 1000 years ago, the kingdom of Dalmasca is created and is ruled by the Binargin royal line for many generations. Around 50 years before the present day, the Empire of Garlemald was founded. The Ascian paragon Emetzelch, under the guise of Solas Zos Galvus, becomes emperor of this newfound empire. 30 years before the present day, the empire invades the kingdom of Dalmasca, taking them by surprise with their aerial assault. Albina fortress holds, but the 4th Legion under Noah van Gabrand lays siege for 6 months. 6 months later, Albina fortress falls. Prince Rasler and his twin sister Princess Ashelia both perished, and the regent conceded the crown. The regent died shortly after, which meant the end of the Binargin line. Kingdom of Dalmasca ceases to exist. Princess Ashelia implores Bagamnan to keep the spirit of Dalmasca to live on through him and the others, which sparks a lot of rebellions in the future. Dalmasca is split and goes under martial law under the Empire. After conquering Dalmasca, the Empire used Rabanastre as a key staging ground for expanding into the rest of Otherd. 3 years later, Naxia was conquered. 17 years before the start of the game, Arasram Durai purchases a necklace as a wedding gift for his wife, unaware that it is a royal heirloom, and further unaware that it's a split or a side. Unknown amounts before the present day, Meteor project was drafted. Midas Nangarlon attempts to communicate with Dalamud. However, a ton of energy came down from Dalamud to the Citadel's makeshift transmission tower, blowing up the entire city. Arasram Durai founded his own theater group. Eventually, Emperor Zongusos Galvus presented him with his very own airship. Intense attempts at uprisings in Dalmasca, mass execution of presumed resistance leaders when the 4th Legion needed help from Gaius' 14th. Livia Sasunius earns her reputation during this time. Rabanastre is bombarded by the Empire, which frees imprisoned Lucavi beneath Rabanastre. Close to the present day, Ultima starts scheming with the Aurasites to try and get the Warrior Flight to her, so that she may use the Warrior Flight as a vessel to circumvent the seal, keeping her imprisoned. This is due to the connection to Saint Ajora and Ramza Biolv also being Warriors of Lights in the past, since it's implied that Ultima controlled / possessed both of them, so she has a link to be able to possess those champions chosen by Heidelman. Arasram Durai, along with his theater group and his children Ramza and Alma, are forced to defect from Garlemald because of Arasram's open criticism towards the Empire. Arasram Durai wanted to prove that the Zodiac Brave Story was real, for which he used an artifact passed down his family, the Durai Papers. The Durai Papers are written in High Ivanese and require his diary to be translated. Arasram Durai goes missing during his search for Ivanese, and sometime after, his children Alma and Ramza seek the Warrior Flight for help. They conclude that their father probably went to Rabanastre, and the Warrior Flight enters Rabanastre, which is now in ruins. The Warrior Flight finds Lesalia's ruins and comes across Argath, who once again is resurrected by the Duma Auracite, this time taking the form of a two-faced god. Thought itself royalty because the Duma Auracite made manifest his desire to rule. He felt entitled to power because of his lineage, which the Auracite tapped into, so he crowns himself King of Ivanese. However, the Warrior of Light defeats Argath, and after defeating him, the Warrior of Light has to give up the Duma Auracite to Bagamnan and his crew in exchange for Alma's and Ramza's father's life. Next we go into the events that happened during Ridorana. Agamemnon is missing, so the Banga crew come to the Prima Vista requesting our assistance. A new entry is found in the diary. The Ridorana cataract / Pharos at Ridorana. We assume that Agamemnon had went there and follow him. He turned into a Lucavi by the Duma aura site. The warrior of light enters Ridorana, encounters Agamemnon and defeats him. He drops the other half of the split aura site, the necklace. Ramza touches said necklace and gets possessed by the real Ramza. Next is the events of Orban Monastery. Ultima, the High Seraph, puts in motion her plan and starts using Araslam Durai's children, Ramza and Alma, to try to bait the Warrior of Light into seeking her. Fran accompanies the Warrior of Light into Orban Monastery, where they find a few of Ramza's companions who use an aura sight to test the Warrior of Light's strength and resolve. The Warrior of Light defeats Mustadio and Agrias. Then Agrias uses the aura sight to create a gateway into another realm, the Necrohall of Mungonde. In Mungonde, the Warrior of Light encounters their final test, Count Sidolphus Orlando, aka the Thunder God. The Warrior of Light defeats Orlando, who grants them passage. The Warrior of Light ventures further into the city and encounters the imprisoned Ultima. Ultima is defeated by the Warrior of Light, and the ethereal visions of Ramza Beowulf, his companion, and King Delita all return to the live stream after thanking the Warrior of Light. Araslam Durai, similar to the original Ramza's decision, deems it best to not reveal to the world the events that transpired. He instead elects to tell the tale in an all-new final act of his renowned play, the Zodiac Brave Story, so that the story can live on, at least within the play. After the events, one of the defectors from the Theater group is unsatisfied with Garlemald not receiving anything at the end of it, and goes behind the group's back to leak knowledge to the Empire. The 4th Legion starts investigating Gog and come across the weapon, Tardarus. Meanwhile, Dalmasca is still annexed territory and needs to be liberated.